Welcome to SECT. I am Cierra Clark, and today let me start that over, actually. I forgot your call letters. Is it WGNO?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't want to mess that up. Let me try. Hey everyone, I'm Cierra Clark, and welcome to SECT, where we are bringing you all the tea from across the Southeastern Conference. But first, make sure you visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. I am joined with a special guest today, Meagan Glover from WGNO in New Orleans. Meagan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm in the Lowe's parking lot right now, but yeah, appreciate you making time.
Yeah, no problem. And it is a crazy time down in Louisiana. We'll address the elephant in the room. Brian Kelly, the LSU head coach, was fired this past weekend after a rough 49-25 home loss to Texas A&M. Meagan, you were at that game. Going into that game, was there any kind of whisperings that if Brian Kelly could get fired if they didn't win this game against Texas A&M?
Well, and it wasn't necessarily that specific game, but there had been whisperings for the past couple of weeks. I mean, especially after the Vandy game. It was the first time that LSU had not been favored against Vanderbilt, and now they're a top 10 team in the country now. So, yeah, there have been whisperings since then, but there were whisperings well beyond the season that started because Kelly had unfortunately put his foot in his mouth saying, like, we're going to see you at the national championship. And when you don't stand on business like that, people take that to heart. So the pot had been brewing for a little minute now.
And you can say all you want about Brian Kelly with his fake Southern accent and him doing the TikTok videos to the NBA YoungBoy songs. You can criticize that all you want, but that's not why he was fired. It's because he wasn't winning enough games. He went 34-14 in his years at LSU. But do you think all that other stuff had a factor at all? But do you think it's mostly the game? He couldn't win enough games?
No, I think it's the games. Because, I mean, yeah, it came off so harsh. And, people down in the South, they're like, look, we're not trying to fake the funk with you. And it's so ironic because the kid that he was dancing in the little 360 thing with used to cover in New Iberia. And then that kid, Danny, wound up flipping to Alabama. So that was just an interesting time knowing him personally. But yeah, no, I think it was just the product on the field. And I think now, it happens when coaches are fired, but now you're seeing former players, you're seeing current players come out and say stories, and they're saying like, yeah, we never really rocked with you anyway. And it's just an unfortunate situation, but I think it was definitely the product on the field. But I had this conversation with one of my good friends that's also a sports reporter out here. The problem is that BK actually did pretty well in the first season. You saw him go to the SEC championship. Of course, he still had Jane Daniels, Malik, Brian Thomas Jr., all those nice assets. You go and do quite well. Like, you set the standard early on in your first year, and then you regress year by year. And I think that didn't help. Like the LSU fans were like, excited. And then it's like year by year, why are we falling off the wayside?
Yeah, exactly. And then the thing with LSU is that is the major program in the state, but you have to fit in, but you don't necessarily have to be from there, it seems. So what is it about LSU that just makes it so much different compared to other programs in the SEC from a culture standpoint?
I mean, just like the SEC said, it means more. It means more at LSU. This is a winning program. LSU is a program that, the saying sex sells. Like, LSU is a program that sells itself. Like, it's truly like I guess a revolving door when it comes to recruitment. Now, if the wins are not, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this cart. Grabbing it. But anyways, it's one of those programs, just like Alabama. Like, you don't have to beg kids to come to Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Texas, even though they're fresh in the SEC. Those type of programs that have that winning culture, like I say, they speak for itself. And like, for example, I'm kind of getting away from football here, but like baseball, right? Baseball just won 2 national championships in 4 years. That is the type of standard that LSU upholds itself to. Women's basketball won a title just a couple of years ago as well. So it's like all of them came in around that same phase, and BK was the one that was unfortunately not holding up his end of the bargain in that.
And it just seems like there was always something with this LSU program. Like you said, in the beginning of his era, they were explosive offensively with that Jaden Daniels as their quarterback. He could do anything. But then now they kind of flipped. It's like, okay, their offense isn't great. The defense is better. So it just seemed like there was always something. And I think they just had to bite the bullet and pull the plug now.
That is such the confusing thing to me personally, because at the beginning of the season, when LSU played Clemson, okay, cool. Then they wound up having that 5 turnover game against Florida. And I said, I ain't never, ever seen you act like this before. Like, who is this? And even well before the season, WGNO, we have a Sports Zone show that we do every week. And of course, we talk about LSU quite a bit. They take a good bit of the load of the show. And I kept saying, Garrett is going to have so many weapons. Like, even if Garrett just does not have the best of the best season, then he's going to have guys that are going to be able to bail him out. And so the fact that they have not been able to produce offensively has been confusing. It's been frustrating. It's been like mind-blowing. But somehow this defense is playing top of the line and they are holding up that end of the bargain. It's kind of like, in a way, you've seen the defense drag the offense by their feet because we don't know what's going on. And it's truly unacceptable.
Exactly. And so the Brian Kelly era is done at LSU. There's several coaching openings in the SEC, with Arkansas firing their coach, Florida firing their coach, and outside the conference, there's even more with big programs like Penn State. And now this LSU job, I would think, is the most attractive job in the country. And I went to Florida. I caught some flack from my own fan base for saying that, but LSU is just built different because they're the only Power 5 school in the state. And per capita, Louisiana has so many talented athletes. Florida does as well. That's my home state. Florida has plenty of high school football talent, but you got to compete with Florida State, Miami, heck, even UCF now, and Alabama's not that far. So why is high school football just so elite in LSU or in Louisiana?
Boy, it's different. I just
Yeah.
Something about the South is different. I mean, you mentioned Florida. I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day. Like, I have a friend that works in Tennessee, and he was like, he works in Tennessee now, but he used to work in Louisiana. And he's just like, yeah, the talent is not what it is in Louisiana. I'm like, you don't really hear too many people say, yeah, that kid's from Tennessee. And, it happens, of course, but like comparing it to here, comparing it to Florida, comparing it to California, those athletes, even, of course, Texas, high school football in Texas is huge. I think just, along the southern border, if you will, the kids are just different. I really just don't know exactly what it is. I can't pinpoint just one thing, but I believe that the coaching is different, the buy-in is different, and of course, football in the South is just different alone. So maybe that's a tale of those things.
And Louisiana is the biggest university in the state. Like in Florida, they don't have a Florida State or Miami. You went to Louisiana Lafayette, right? Okay. Correct me if I'm saying that wrong, because we in Arkansas and in Florida, there's a city they call it Lafayette, but yeah, Lafayette, I think, is the correct saying. So it
depends on who's saying it, but yeah.
Yes. And so that's where you went. Is there any kind of, so like with Arkansas State, there is a bit of a power struggle kind of with Arkansas State and Arkansas. Is there something kind of like that with Tulane and Louisiana Lafayette?
For sure. And I mean, and that's no slight to the athletes, but there's definitely, I guess, different levels for the athletes that go to UL, for the athletes that go to Tulane, and for the athletes that go to LSU. I mean, LSU, and it kind of just goes without saying, the boys are different, but you do see a lot of the times where these kids would, where they would start off at a smaller program and they would then move on to LSU. Like, for example, the first one I'm thinking about was Barra Sharp, a tight end that plays for LSU now. And, he played quite a bit with Southeastern. So it happens all the time, or, often enough rather, but there is definitely like some sort of like difference in levels between those type of programs, for sure.
We mentioned, Brian Kelly not really fitting in, whether it was the fake accent or the awkward NBA young boy TikTok dance, whatever that was. But LSU fans seem to want a coach that fits in with the program. And we clearly saw that with Coach O, who is like the king of Louisiana. But even when Nick Saban was there or other coaches who weren't from Louisiana seemed to have that fit. Now, winning does help a lot with that. But what kind of coach does LSU need personality wise?
They want somebody who obviously wins, right? Like, if you're going to talk about it, be about it. Talk the talk, walk the walk type of person. But they love somebody who is fully immersed in the culture. Coach O is so unfortunate what happened with his situation, but right, he is like the king. I mean, look, of course you got Nick Saban, of course you got Les Miles, and unfortunately his drama he has going on. But Coach O is gonna forever be beloved in this state, and even for him, Coach O gets around. Like, he was just at Grambling a couple weeks ago. He's at Tulane games all the time. I don't know if he still goes to UL games, but he would be popping up there from time to time. I've seen him at a Northwestern State game. Like, I know a lot of people don't even really know Northwestern State like that. Like, he gets around. He's just like a Louisiana breaded guy through and through from St. Rose. Nobody knows where St. Rose is from around here. Like, but it's the culture of what he brings, being a Louisiana guy, but then that winning culture. Just people loved him. The athletes loved him. Just this state loved him, and then he was able to again bring wins when he came to that. So, for example, of course, I have no idea where this cart moving. I have no idea what this search is gonna go. But Frank Wilson, who is now stepping in as the interim, he is from Louisiana. He's from New Orleans, as a matter of fact. He graduated from St. Augustine, and he went on to play at Nichols at Thibodeau, which is about an hour away from here. He's a Louisiana guy through and through. And so it'll be very interesting to see how he's able to take this team and move forward for the next few games. I mean, they got the big one next week against Alabama. They got to see Oklahoma soon at some point as well. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the team responds to him, how they buy into him. And this is a guy that had a lot of recruiting praise in his first couple of years with LSU in the first go-around.
And so this past weekend when LSU lost at home, which is something they're not supposed to do, especially at night. They lost 49-25 at home to Texas A&M. And like at LSU, at night, that stadium gets a little bit spooky. There's some crazy stuff that happens on at LSU games at night, and Brian Kelly has managed to lose 2 of them in his 4-year tenure at LSU, which is just a no-go. But when you were at that game this past weekend, what did you hear from the fans when the game wasn't going that well? Was the crowd into it at all, or were they yelling, "Fire Brian Kelly"?
Yes, both things. A lot of people left by halftime. And I'll admit that, like, unless it's like a really good game, people do leave in halftime. You can see the fans kind of fizzle out. But people had left. For the people that did stay, there were cheers of "Fire Brian Kelly." I actually have a couple videos of it, and then I also have a picture of a kid holding up his shirt, because you can tell we're recording him, holding up his shirt that says "Fire Kelly" with like a clown on it. So now it's blowing up a little bit now that it's happened, but yeah, no, it was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah, it was brutal in Death Valley for sure. That probably was the worst I've ever seen it, actually.
Wow. That says a lot, especially, you've been to so many LSU games covering that. But you talk about it just means more because the SEC, that's their motto with LSU. But unlike a lot of other deep South states, Louisiana has an NFL team, which you also covered, the New Orleans Saints. And I've always been curious about that dynamic. Are fans LSU fans, and then they're also diehard Saints fans, or some people are like, no, I only care about LSU? How is that dynamic down there?
To be honest with you, this is my personal opinion. I'm going to answer this 2 ways. My personal opinion is that games at LSU, if they're winning, of course, games at LSU are more hype than games at the Saints facility, at the Dome. Now, in light of the fact that the Saints have not had a good season the past couple of years, that might be a little flawed as well, but the games are definitely more crazy at LSU than the Dome. Now, when the Saints are winning, like, the Dome is rocking, don't get me wrong, but yeah. Now, as far as fandom, there are more state fans for LSU just across the state, from here up to Shreveport, which is about 4.5, 5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
But when you cross up Alexandria, which is basically central Louisiana,
Okay.
more Dallas fans.
Interesting.
Yes. So like, for myself, I did not grow up a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
So I am part of the minority just growing up in Shreveport. But that is how it is. LSU fans statewide for sure. Of course, you got your pockets for the smaller schools in that city, but no, LSU is statewide.
So at people where you went to school at Louisiana Lafayette, were a lot of them also LSU fans, or some of them are like, we don't care about LSU? Because that's how Arkansas State people are.
Definitely LSU fans in Lafayette. Oh, it's such a huge drama debacle that we don't have time to get into, girl. But yes, LSU fans in Lafayette.
I feel like that's always a dynamic that happens across SEC programs that also have a Sun Belt school in their state, because you always hear though they're too scared to play us, and then it's like, well, we don't have anything to lose or gain. But I always am a fan of keeping the game in state and generating attention across that state and those athletes.
All right, and this is just me guessing, especially with you being from Florida, but I can assume like, oh, maybe UCF fans don't really care for Florida fans, like.
See, that's such an interesting dynamic because UCF has kind of been on the rise. Now they're not that great, but there was that era a few years ago where they would claim to win the national title and they wanted to play us, and can't remember the details fully completely, but they were like, oh, Florida only wants to play us in Gainesville. They don't want to play us at our house because Gators didn't want to lose a home game. Eventually, we did play UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl and in a regular season game. We lost in the bowl game. We played in the regular season. So, but the thing is, it's like, okay, you lose to a G5 school, which UCF isn't anymore, and they're in the Big 12. So let's say South Florida, which Florida did lose to this year at home.
Right.
Let's say you lose to a USF. Everyone's upset. Billy Napier ended up losing his job down the road, not even for that game, which is a whole other thing I'm not even going to get into. But when you lose to one of those teams, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. And then the next day, it's like, okay, the sun's still shining. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. We got in this nugget. I am rooting for Billy because obviously he was the coach at UL.
Yes.
Win. So I hope that things pan out for him. I hate that it did in the SEC. I don't know obviously where they goes from here, but I hope that things do pan out for him.
How was it covering Billy Napier when he was at Louisiana? Did you cover his departure and like when there were possible rumblings of him going to Florida?
Oh yeah, it was out there. I want to say that was the ULM game right before the bowl game, the New Orleans Bowl that year, and Billy took a very long. They won, but Billy took a very long time to get in there. Secondly, someone asked what was his message to the team, and he started choking up, and that's when we knew he was gone.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and of course, a couple days or a day after, he was out of there. He didn't coach the bowl game, so yep.
Wow. Well,
that too. Yeah.
And so you grew up in what part of Louisiana?
Shreveport.
Okay, Shreveport. So North Louisiana. So how did you find your way into sports broadcasting?
So, like I said, I went to UL, and I took up the broadcasting journalism. That's what I majored in, and stuck with it. My last semester at school, I wound up working at one of the local news stations, the Fox NBC affiliate, as a production assistant. So I would do the morning show. I would go to work. The show would start for 4:00, so I'd be at work for like 3, and do that. Go to class. And then finished off the semester. Once I graduated, I was offered a full-time job as a PA, and I eventually became a photog. And of course, like anybody, during high school football season, they want as much help as possible.
Oh yeah.
So I did a lot of that, built a bunch of reps over time. I stayed with that station for 2 total years.
What station was it?
Do what?
What station was it?
AADN, News 15.
What city?
In Lafayette.
Okay, I know that one, yeah.
Yeah, so I stayed there for 2 total years. Then I went to Alexandria, so this is around COVID. Eventually COVID had hit. And I was single woman sports department over there. And then I went back to Lafayette to another station, to KATC, stayed them. And then now I'm in New Orleans.
I think we might have even shared highlights or something at some point because we covered Arkansas State and you guys played you covered ULL. So there's always, crossover when it comes to those local news markets. But being a one woman sports department, especially in a smaller-ish market, as you know, ain't no joke. I mean, you were shooting high school football, you were covering LSU as well, I assume, and the other colleges in the area. I mean, like, how did you do that?
The upside was that it kind of was my decision making. Like, I mean, of course, I had to clear some things with management, but for the most part, I didn't really have to answer to anybody when it came to what games I could go to. So, like, that year was the year that the LSU won the national championship. So I was all there for that weekend. And that was actually my birthday weekend, so it was fantastic. But did that. Went to the Saints games a couple of times, just whenever I could. High school football, just I made the greatest relationships with coaches because I really just had no choice but to. So that worked out. And of course they got like the small schools, LSU, Louisiana College in Pineville, not Centenary, excuse me. Am I missing another one? But yeah, I just kind of did what I did. But once COVID had hit, that kind of flipped things a little bit because then I had to do more news. Of course, Northwestern State. Of course, because no sports were happening.
Oh, yeah.
That was an
Crazy time.
So
yes.
I got to see my parents like every other weekend. But
that's good.
But yeah, no, it was interesting.
And then now you're at WGNO. How long have you been there for?
I just made a year last month.
Okay, congratulations. And so you cover a lot of the Saints. What would you say the bulk of your coverage is as a reporter in New Orleans for sports?
The bulk of my coverage, it varies because we cover so much. Personally, the bulk of my coverage is probably Saints because I'm at the facility. I'm at the facility twice a week, and then I cover the games on Sundays, home games on Sundays. So, but we harp on high school football quite a bit. Fridays are the longest days of my life. But I'm going to say for me personally, I mean, it kind of varies from person to person, but for me personally, it's Saints. But I cover Tulane quite a bit, of course. Of course, I cover high school, like I said, cover LSU. As long as they're at home, I'm at an LSU game. I do go to the FCS schools, like I will be this weekend. I'll be at Southeastern. I do cover Nichols as well. So, yeah.
And what made you want to get into sports broadcasting? Did you play sports growing up, or what was that drive? It's like, okay, this is what I want to do.
I did run track in high school. But what made me want to get into sports was just hanging out with my dad, my uncle, just talking with them. And it was like, well, I'm not going to be the next Lisa Leslie. So let's just talk about it. And I mean, it's simple as that. Like, I just knew that I wanted to talk about sports on TV.
Well, there you go. You have it at that. And where can our viewers find you on social media, especially during this crazy time amongst LSU football?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook at Meagan Glover TV. That's MEAGAN Glover TV. And then on Twitter, it's Meagan G TV all together.
Well, there you go. And Meagan covers, like I said, LSU and the New Orleans Saints and a bunch of other sports. But speaking of the NFL, FanDuel is getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can just bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, build player props, ride the live lines, whatever your thing is, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you, Meagan, so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. This was good.